Hello, my name is Irene, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I'll talk about my opinions on books, and hopefully I can give you a few good recommendations. Before I get started, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe. So today I'm going to be talking about the 13 books I read in May. These books were pretty good. Like overall, I read more good books I think than bad. I have a few ones that I've rated lower, but other than that, it was a really good reading month. I read a lot too, so that was really good. So let's just get started, and as always, I'm going to be talking about my lowest rated up to my highest rated. Starting off, we are going to be talking about Bones of Fairy. I picked this book for my TBR jar, and I graded it 2 stars. I did not enjoy it. I don't think it was good quality, to be honest. It very much felt like someone's first book that they wrote, and they didn't spend like years, making it the best. They just it was just low quality to me. It was just not very interesting. I mean, it was about this girl who lived in a city that hated fairies. They despised fairies. They killed them off and stuff. And she found out that she was really a fairy, so she ran away, kind of with this boy, and found a city that accepted fairies, and a lot of them were fairies. And then it became this quest to find someone, and yeah, it was just not something I've never seen before. Nothing was done that felt very interesting. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I just didn't really enjoy it. I didn't connect to any of the characters. It felt very young to me. It felt like the younger side of YA to me. And some of those, younger YA books, I can really enjoy it, but this one I just didn't, and it didn't do it for me. Next, I am going to be talking about Lake of Souls, and then after that, I am going to be talking about Sons of Destiny. These are the 10th and the 12th book in the Cirque du Freak series. The 11th was rated a little bit higher, so we're going to talk about the 10th and 12th. This series, I feel like, went downhill in a lot of ways because it did so many tropes that I disliked, and I feel like some of the things that the author did try to make it seem like he was planning it from the beginning, but it did not seem like that at all. It seemed like he just put these things in the book just to shock the reader, and it had my least favorite tropes ever. And he put time traveling in Lake of Souls and in Sons of Destiny. He put time traveling in it, and it just was so bad to me. I thought it was so bad, the time traveling. It didn't make any sense. I rarely like time traveling in books because it's very hard to do it well, because time traveling's complicated, and there's all this stuff that can make it, not make sense, and it's just seems like a plot convenience to me. So he did that. The 10th book, The Lake of Souls, was kind of about one of the side characters and finding out his story, and then what I found out about his story and who he was, I didn't make any sense because it had to do with time traveling, and it just didn't make any sense. And then with Sons of Destiny, the way that ended, it ended with another one of my least favorite tropes. I hated it. There have been very few series that I have seen do this trope, and I hate it every single time. It's just not good. It's just not good. I don't know many people. It's the most unsatisfying ending ever. There's one thing in the ending that I enjoyed and I was happy was there, but everything else was just so unsatisfying. He did not have to make it so unsatisfying, but he did. So I did not like the end of this series, which sucks because it was a good fun ride, and it was a fun an adventure, but it just didn't do it for me. The next book I'm going to talk about is 3 stars, and this is A Little Princess. I think that this book really reminded me of some of my favorite characters that I read about in my childhood. like Anne of Green Gables and Avonlea, the show Avonlea, because it's about this girl who, well, in Anne of Green Gables she wasn't rich at the beginning, but she was rich. Little Princess was rich, and then her wealth got taken away, and then she was really, really poor, and she was like really looked down upon, and she was treated horribly by the elders, but throughout all of it she was just like, I'm still a princess, you know? And I enjoyed that, because like some of the things that she was like reminded me of myself, you know, when I was a kid. Like she would pretend like dolls and stuff were secretly real when you left the room. I thought that when I was a kid. I might have gotten it from this story because I'm pretty sure my mom read it to me when I was little, but a lot of little things I connected to, but then a lot of other little things I just were kind of annoying, because I don't really like the kid who's like, oh, bad things are happening to me, but I'm still a princess. I still am a princess, you know, because she was rich. So I don't really enjoy that much, and I really feel like I was bored a lot during the middle. I really liked the ending, and the beginning I was like intrigued, but the middle was so boring. But at the same time, I connected with her in some ways. So I gave it 3 stars. Next book I'm talking about is A Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, which is the 4th Wheel of Time book. This book, I liked some parts of it. I think that it was good, but the problems that I had with it were all my fault. My problem was that I don't know who all the characters are, you know? All these characters that we're supposed to know who they are, I forget because there's like so many characters. I can't keep track of them all. So I would just be confused in a lot of parts, and the plot would get confusing in some parts. And I mean, overall, I love like a good portion of the characters, main characters, and I find them so interesting, and their story is very interesting, and I like some of the things that happen in this. Like we explore different parts of the world and different relationships, and a lot of relationships developed and went on different levels, and I really liked that. But at the same time, I was so confused about all the characters, and I feel like during reread this would probably be 5 stars for me, but I can't give it more because it was so hard to get through at some parts that I have to give it kind of a low rating. But I fixed that problem for next month. I got this thing, this app that like you look up each of the characters and what book you're reading, and it tells you what's happening with those characters and who they are. So hopefully that'll help me with the 5th book, because I still want to go through this series because I care about these characters and I care about what they're going through, and the world is so interesting. I'm just having a hard time getting through it. So next month, hopefully it's fixed when I read the 5th book with that app. Next book I read was Full Tilt, which was 4 stars. I was so pleasantly surprised when I read this book. By the way, I love books with carnivals and circuses, and I find that stuff so interesting, and I like having a dark twist on it, and this book did exactly that. You know, I have a very hard time finding carnival books that I really enjoy, but this one did it. So it's kind of about these brothers and kind of a friendship group, and he ends up going to the carnival to save his brother, and it's like this twisted carnival that's in the middle of the night, and going through each of the rides, it like transforms and becomes like something, like one of your biggest fears, and they have to go through this, and he has to keep going through these 7 rides to get to his brother, and I really liked it. Now the ending kind of played off on a trope that I didn't really enjoy, and I think because of that I couldn't give it 5 stars, because of the ending a bit, but it didn't do it enough to make me hate the book. But yeah, it was kind of like magical. It was really magical actually, and like this girl that he that was like kind of in charge of the carnival, he kind of had this connection with, and the way we went all like in a circle at the end, like it all rounded together and it all made sense at the end, was great. Some things I did not like about this book was like random romantic interests like that did not fit in anything, and I disliked a lot. Just random, like they weren't developed. There was nothing to them. There was just, it was only overnight, the book. But I just did not like those random romantic things that would happen. I was like, where did that come from and why is that there? But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. Next book I'm going to talk about is Lord of Shadows, which I was talking about Circuit Freak earlier, and I gave 4 stars. So this is the 11th book, and I thought this one was a lot more fun. We explored the relationships and their families a lot more than we have before, and that's what I really enjoyed, and I thought that part was fantastic, and I had a lot of fun with this book. The 10th and the 12th I hated, but in the middle it was great. It didn't have any of the tropes I hated, and it just explored the family that we haven't seen since the beginning of the series. I felt like it was really rounding together in this book because we brought back characters from back then, and it just like came this whole completed story, I felt like. Another 4-star book was The Handmaid's Tale. At the beginning of this book, wasn't really enjoying it. I was having a hard time getting through it because it seemed like it was all world building. There was not much stuff happening with the characters, but I really enjoyed it. At the end, I really enjoyed it. I felt like a lot more happened at the end. It showed kind of the darkest parts of the society, and I really enjoyed that. So that was really fun to me. Not fun, it was a really dark book, but I feel like it really explored the situation going on, but I also felt like it ended to where I wasn't getting everything that I needed from the story, and it kind of left where I felt like not enough to the story because I want to know what happened next. But I know there's a second book, and I don't know if I'm going to read it. I don't think so, because it felt kind of, because I heard the second book happens 20 years later, and I feel like this like kind of completed the story at this time, even though I still kind of felt like they just needed like one more scene, I think. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, especially the second half. The second half was really good. Next book, first 5-star book, is The Bone Houses. I loved this. This was so good. It was about this gravedigger and about this map maker, and they sort of and these skeletons like were coming up from the graves and like attacking the town, so they had to go to this mountain and just solve that, and it was just like this very it was just very cool to see like all the like these two very different people that have two different backgrounds see what the world is like, because the world was very different. It's very different than, our world, and it's very common for skeletons to come up from the ground, so they met other people, and it was just great, and it was like the family dynamic was really cool in it too, and I thought it was just easy to get through and just a fun ride the entire time. So I really loved this book. It was great. I had so much fun. Then I read Crest. I'm not going to say much about this one because it was a reread. I gave it 5 stars, but this book has one of my favorite romantic relationships of all time. So I loved it, and I loved rereading it and re-exploring the story, and I can't wait to read the 4th one. It was a great reread. Then I read Stolen, which is 5 stars. Also another reread. I listened to it, and this one, I also gave it 5 stars, and I gave it 5 stars back then when I read the first time. But it was very different reading experience because the first time I feel like was a very different person, and it was about this girl getting kidnapped by this guy and them sort of forming this type of relationship, not necessarily romantic exactly, but it was just like this relationship they formed together, and it was really, back then I saw as really sweet, and I just wanted her to get to know this guy and see why he kidnapped her. But now I'm kind of just like see it differently. Now I still like the kidnapper because it really shows who he is as a person. He's just a guy who loves the earth and loves the plants and just, you know, loves animals and stuff, but he's also kidnapped her, you know? So now I see it definitely as more complicated than I did before, which is crazy. But yeah, so I really, really enjoyed it still, but it was just more complicated to me this time. And I was like, yeah, I get why you're mad because he kidnapped you. Because back then I was more of a romanticist. The next book I read was I Am Legend, which is a classic book, and I really enjoyed this. It was about this man who was the last man on Earth, and all these vampires were trying to kill him, and then it just showed like his mindset, like how it changes while things happen, and then he looks back on the past and he sees how he got there, and then it was really good. I feel like we really explored this man's thoughts and what he was going through, and I thought it was fantastically done. Definitely a 5-star book. I don't really have much to say about it, but it was definitely 5 stars. I feel like it was just very, very well done. I enjoyed it a lot. Also, it had like a different twist of vampires that I haven't. It's like the typical vampire, but also kind of a bit different, I would say. I feel like they didn't have emotions and feelings as much as we usually see, and it's kind of darker, I would say. So I really liked it. The last book I'm going to talk about is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and I love this book. This was probably my favorite book all this year so far, which is saying a lot because I've read a lot of good books this year. But this one was great. It was great. I knew from the beginning, like, I don't know, a few chapters in, that it was going to become my, like, 5 stars. And it was going to be 5 stars from the beginning. And it was great. It was about this girl who, father was, you know, supposedly a coward, and how that really brought a lot of negativity towards her life, because everyone kind of was just like, oh, you're going to be a coward too. And then kind of explored that and what was going to like happen, what was happening. They kind of like saw like the big picture of everything. And then, oh my god, there was a ship that she had to find to repair, and that became my favorite storyline. I don't really read science fiction like this that much, but this one was so good. And then she would always go into these battles in the ship, and she was only like, she was in flight school, so, but she was put into these battles, and she was like, had to fumble around with her like flight crew, and it was great. And there was some relationships that I was like, from the beginning I was like, that guy, I want her to form a relationship or friendship with that guy. And then it happens, and then it's just like everything I wanted came together and happened. And then there's like these alien species, the Krell, and I just want to explore more of that, because we still, like, at the end don't really know what they are or what they're doing. We only have like kind of ideas of what they could possibly be there for, and I just want to explore more of that. And I just want to like throw my June TBR out of the way and read the second book of that. So I'm sorry I'm so enthusiastic about this book, but I absolutely loved it. I should never have doubted Brandon Sanderson, because I wasn't 100% sure, because a couple books that I read of Brandon Sanderson recently, I was like, were okay, and I wasn't really used to his books being just okay. They're usually favorites. And so I read this one, I'm like, don't get your hopes up, but then it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So I am going to read the second book hopefully next month, because it was great. I had so much fun. Anyway, that was my May wrap up. I had such a great time making this video. It's so much fun talking about the books you read. I think next month I really need to work on DNFing a bit more. I mean, not when I'm in the middle of the series and I want to see how it ends, but like DNFing, if I'm not enjoying a book and a book's probably going to become 2 stars, to just DNF it, you know, because at the end of the month I don't want to be like, oh, I should DNF that book. I should, you know, just do it, and then not, my list won't be as long, but, you know, there's only one book I should DNF this month, which was Bones of Fairy, unfortunately. But anyway, I really liked doing this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.